Best American Crime Writing 2004. The authors of the articles in this book were published in a variety of magazines like GQ, The New Yorker, The Atlantic Monthly, Esquire, Details, Vanity Fair, Playboy, and others. The book is an anthology of 20 different crime stories. Each story is written in detail about the crime. When you read these, don't expect to get an overview or a soundbite worth of information. These articles are well-researched, edited, and written. Some of the best writers are included in this anthology, such as James Ellroy, Mark Bowden, and John Krakauer. I picked one story to focus on, The Old Man and the Gun by David Grann. The reason I selected this article is because I thought it was thoroughly written and entertaining at the same time. Forrest Tucker was almost 79 years old when he went to work for the last time. His job wasn't a 9-to-5. His was bank robbery. He didn't have to rob the bank. He was living with his wife in Pompano Beach, Florida. His house was paid off. He could sit by the shore and practice his saxophone if he wanted to. He had an easy life. On that day, he drove to the Republic Security Bank in Jupiter, about 50 miles from his home. He went up to the first teller and said, "Put your money on the counter." His take was more than $5,000. On his way out, he said thank you to the two tellers. He was caught soon after. The police were stunned when they realized they had just arrested one of the most notorious stick-up men of the 20th century. Forrest Tucker was 81 years old by the time David Grann spoke to him. As soon as they met, Forrest said, "So what do you want to know? I've been in prison all my life, except for times I've broken out. I was born in 1920, and I was in jail by the time I was 15. I'm 81 now, and I'm still in jail. But I've broken out 18 times successfully and 12 times unsuccessfully." Tucker idolized outlaws like John Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Jesse James, and ones he read about in dime novels. Like the outlaws he read about, he believes that he was forced into banditry because the system made him that way. He started off stealing cars, bikes, and then escalated to breaking and entering. And on September 22nd, 1950, he robbed his first bank, for which he made off with $1,278. A few days later, he went back to the same place and stole the entire safe. He was arrested as he tried to crack it open alongside the road. He probably would have gotten away with it if he weren't so bold and greedy. Even though he was arrested and sentenced, Tucker said, "It didn't matter to me if they gave me 5, 10 years, or life. I was an escape artist." After escaping, he went on a spree of robberies. He eventually partnered with an ex-con named Richard Bellew. For 2 years, they would hit bank after bank. And once Tucker was caught, he was sent to Alcatraz. The country's most notorious criminals were sent to Alcatraz. Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and James Whitey Bulger. While at Alcatraz, he helped plan an escape. He and another inmate smuggled tools from their prison jobs and carved holes in toilet bowls and tucked the tools inside, putting putty over them. At night, they used the tools to tunnel through the floor, planning to go out by means of the basement. One day, a prisoner in solitary confinement ratted them out. So Tucker and 2 other prisoners had to go to the hole. See, solitary confinement has been a punishment since prisons began. It cuts the prisoner off from the rest of the world, and they lose phone privileges and so forth. As time passed, Tucker began to teach himself the law, and before long, he was deluging the courts with appeals. Eventually, he was granted a hearing. while being held in the county jail, he complained of pains in his kidneys and was rushed to the hospital. He tried to escape, but was caught shortly after in the middle of a cornfield. It wasn't until the summer of 1979 that Tucker achieved his greatest escape while at a maximum security facility in San Quentin. He and 2 other prisoners escaped on a homemade kayak. They also wore clothes to make them look like sailors. After they set out, strong waves pushed them back to the prison. A guard in one of the towers spotted them clinging to the upside-down craft, kicking it to shore, and asked if they needed help. He was unaware that any prisoners had escaped. California unleashed a statewide manhunt. Meanwhile, police in Texas and Oklahoma began to report a strange series of holdups by 3 or 4 men who strolled into a grocery store or bank, flashed a gun, demanded the money, and sped away in a stolen car. Witnesses said the men were all old. The police compared them to the elderly thieves in the movie Going in Style and dubbed them the Over-the-Hill Gang. By the age of 60, Tucker had mastered the art of the holdup. Tucker told Grann how to rob a bank. He said, "You want to find a place near the highway. Then you need to case it. You can't just storm in. You need to size it up. Know it like your own home." Tucker also says that violence is the first sign of an amateur. He says the best hold-up men were like stage actors, able to hold a room by the sheer force of their personality. As for the tools, Tucker said you need to polish or super glue to cover your fingertips. You need a glass cutter. You need a holster, a canvas bag, and a gun. The gun is just a prop. But the key to the success of the Over-the-Hill Gang was a police scanner. Tucker wore it in his ear. Witnesses thought it was a hearing aid. He said, once you have your cool car parked nearby, you've got your radio, your hands are covered with gloves or super glue, you walk in. Go right up to the manager, say, "Sit down." Never pull the gun, just flash it. Tell him calmly you're here to rob the bank and it better go off without a hitch. Don't run from the bank unless you're being shot at, because it only shows something is going on. Just walk to the hot car, real calm, then drive to the cool car, rev it up, and you're gone. Tucker tried to get the interest of Hollywood to make a movie about his life, but all he got was rejection. It wasn't until 2018 that Robert Redford did a movie about Tucker called The Old Man and the Gun. I haven't seen this movie, but I skimmed it for screenshots to use in this video. What I found most fascinating about this story was that Tucker never stopped. He was addicted to bank robbery. It didn't matter that he was old and frail or that he had high blood pressure. The addiction was so strong that he literally couldn't stop what he knew most. He was like a drug addict. Bank robbery was his drug of choice, his heroin, his crack. Thank you for watching. Bye.